Hi everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres. Now, if you have never had real pita bread, you have never lived. That stuff that they sell at the grocery store that's been sitting on the shelf full of preservatives for a week or more does not even vaguely resemble pita bread. I did not know what I was missing until I went to a Greek restaurant near where my daughter lives in California, and they had fresh pita bread, and I could eat it all day. So that's what we're making. So the dough is nice and poofy, and it's ready to be used. So let's get a little bit of flour on the board. Don't want a ton, but I also don't want it sticking to everything. My hands are obviously clean. And we dump out the dough. I'm going to lightly sprinkle a little bit of flour on top because I want to be able to and this needs to be cut into 10 pieces. Now you can use this kind of a cutter, you can use a knife, you can use whatever works for you. They're not going to all be perfect. People who do this all the time will get so that they are pretty darn perfect. But obviously, I don't do this all the time. I've made my English muffin recipe a million times, and my English muffins are still not all the same size. And actually, we kind of like it better that way because it gives us options. If we want a giant English muffin, we choose a giant English muffin. And if we don't, we choose a smaller one. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to roll this. Now, I'm literally taking the dough from the top and sticking it on the bottom. Just like that. So that the bottom's kind of lumpy, but my top is perfect. And I'm going to sit it on just a little tiny bit of flour to rest for a few minutes. And I'm going to smush him while he's over there too. So he's about a ½ inch thick. You can see it the dough sort of sticks to my fingers a little bit. If it were to start to get too sticky, all I have to do is get a little tiny bit of flour on my hands and I can remove the stickiness. And make sure there's no folds or creases or anything on the top. I really want it to be pretty darn smooth. Sometimes you'd have to think about where you're going to put stuff when you're doing things. Some people will put it on a separate tray or something. I'm trying not to make too much of a mess today. Not that this kitchen hasn't been messed up and cleaned 45 times this week so far. It's been a heavy usage week with lots of pickles and tomato sauces and everything else, so that tends to be summer around here for us because we're really trying to get the garden produce stashed for the winter. Now I'm going to cover this with a towel and let it rest for 20 minutes. Doesn't have to be exactly 20 minutes, but basically 20 minutes. Now, while I'm waiting for that, I can go back to my English muffins. That dough is very impressive because it's a double batch, so it's huge. Woo! It's coming to get us. Giganticus. I'm just going to shake this stuff to kind of make him deflate a bit first. Remember, we oiled these balls of dough before they went in so that they wouldn't stick to the bowls. And this is gigantic. I'm going to get my big cutter because I'm going to be making English muffins for a while. So, while this guy's resting, okay. Woo! Plop. It's a lot of English muffins. I'm just going to start with a little bit to start with. I don't really worry about how many English muffins I'm getting out of some of this. I just kind of make them. And like I said, we kind of enjoy having a variety of sizes. I'm doing kind of a variation on what I did with the other ones. I'm not worried about them being perfectly round. Once in a while you get a dot in here and I'm like, I hate dots. Have a tendency to take them out. If you want to, you can put down cornmeal or something else like that on there. You'll notice that a lot of your English muffins at the grocery store do have cornmeal on the bottom. It's not necessary. If you want it, do it. If you don't, don't. Probably the easiest way to create an English muffin-y sort of looking thing is to roll a ball and then sort of smash them down. They'll enlarge a little bit, so that guy's going to be pretty little. Sometimes I'll decide that one is going to be way too big or way too little, and I'll add dough or take it away. I do want to have a little bit of flour underneath this because I don't want it to totally stick to the board. For when I first started making these, I was making English muffins every week, and I was like, oh geez, I do have other things to do. And then I said, well, why am I just making a single batch? I can make a double batch. Crash. I can make a double batch and not have to do it so often. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ta-da! Okay, obviously I have a ton more to make besides that, but I don't think you need to sit here and watch me make dough balls for hours and hours. I'm going to let this sit for a few minutes. You can see, I think, that these have puffed up a teeny bit. And we're going to still let them rest for a few minutes more. Now, exactly how am I going to cook this stuff? This is a clean rag. Just has a little dust on top. We're going to keep this guy covered because we don't want him to dry out, because we live in a dry climate. So, let me show you where I'm going to cook this stuff. I think we bought it the first time we lived in New Mexico, but I could be wrong. It is a piece of steel sheet. It's been welded to a handle. We use it for heating tortillas. You could use any kind of a flat, shallow pan. Cast iron is perfect for it because it's heavy and it has a lot of pretty even heat to it. But that's what I'm going to cook the pitas on. My favorite pan for cooking English muffins is this beast. It is an old Le Creuset pan. And, you know, these are the enamel-coated cast iron. Plain cast iron works just fine for this too, so long as it's properly seasoned. I also, when I'm doing the double batches, will use another big heavy pan that I have on a different burner, so that I can be doing, like, let's see, I can usually put 4 in each one, so I can be cooking 8 at a time. Speeds up the process a lot when you're making a whole stack. Now, for this pan, I am not going to oil it. This is like a good cast iron pan. Well, it is cast iron effectively. It's been seasoned. This actually started out silver, 40 years ago. It's warped slightly. It's been through everything. And it still works like a charm. You can throw a tortilla on there, heat it up in a couple of minutes. Perfect. This will not be greased. These pans will be greased lightly. I will take a shred of paper towel. Put away the olive oil because we're not cooking anymore. And I will literally just put a few drops on here and wipe down the insides of the pan. That's all. And I'm just going to wipe down this inside. This is a fairly non-stick surface just because it's properly seasoned and all that kind of stuff. But I like to just literally wipe it down. This is also a non-stick pan, but I still do the same thing with this. It doesn't hurt anything, and you're not putting, there was like a half a teaspoon of oil there. That just seems to be a little helpful when you're doing a lot of things at the same time. I'll put this off staggered. So this burner is currently broken, which is why I'm not using it. Take a look at our pitas over here and see how they're doing. Looks like a secret thing over there because everybody's under a towel. That's funny. Okay. Whew. Start with the first one we did. We have a floured surface. This is a plain wooden rolling pin. Couldn't even guess how long I've had it. All I'm going to do is roll this out. Be handier if I had a little bit more space here, but I don't. So we're going to make it work. You want to roll this out about 1/8 of an inch thick. Now you'll notice I roll it out and it tends to come right back, but we're gradually getting to the point where it's not coming back as fast. So and they don't have to be perfectly round. The fancy pitas from the good bakeries are not perfectly round, and those are by people who do this all the time. I'm going to heat this, and I'm going to wait till it's hot before I use it. One of the most common problems is that the pan is not hot enough. If the pan is not hot enough, the steam will not form correctly inside the pita, which is what makes it puff up. If you've ever had a tortilla puff up on you, it's the same sort of thing. It's the steam inside that's making it puff. I'm looking for some serious heat coming off of that. Not as hot as I would for a wok, but I really want it to cook quickly when it hits that steel. Keep wanting to fold this, and you do not want folds in your... Trying to be patient, but you know, watch, pot never boils in a... Neither does a pan when you're waiting for it to heat up. Well, let's give it a try. We'll see. We'll know really quickly if we don't have it hot enough or not. Okay. The answer is it's not hot enough. I really cranked the heat under it to try and get it to go a little bit. See them? We're getting little bubbles, but we're not getting it to puff right. Now, even if it doesn't puff quite right, it's still going to be really delicious. It's still going to be way better than what they're selling at the grocery store. But the pan was not hot enough. Yeah, this is going to be an incomplete pocket. That's what's going to happen, but it's like as the pan is heating up, it's starting to work a little bit better. But I don't want to burn it. Yeah, going to get an incomplete pocket. We'll have a pocket here and a pocket here. Still totally usable. Great for scooping hummus and stuff like that. But even the pros that I've watched sometimes have problems with an individual. It just doesn't puff quite right. Oops. Don't do that. Got some interesting puffages, but it's not puffing evenly enough today. Must just be the batch of dough. And we'll see how it tastes though. Oh yeah. That's really good. The taste is excellent. It just didn't puff right. What is happening is the steam is actually expanding inside the dough, and that's what's creating the puff. And I am determined that I can get the flavor. There's no question about the flavor. I'm determined that I will get this to the point where I can do a really good pita all the time. Right now, 50-50. Well, the best way to get a pita to puff up nicely is to have the battery on the camera die, apparently. This is not going to be a perfect one, but it's doing a pretty good job. Well, it's nummy. It's just not puffy. Oh well, that happens. Still tasty. Half puffed. But you didn't have to do the oven. Back to the English muffins. Remember, we rolled them out into balls, kind of flattened them a little bit. We've let them rest, and now they've poofed up a little bit. They've proofed is what they call it. I have a pan here. It's on medium heat. Nice and toasty in there. And all I'm going to do is pick these guys up and put them in. I can normally put 4 into this pan. You don't want to get them too close together because they will poof just a little bit sometimes. And you don't want them to stick together. The world will not end if they stick together. There they are. They've already swelled up a teeny bit. I'm going to put the lid on. And I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes. Now, I'm going to cook them for 5 minutes on one side. And then I'm going to flip them over. I've already done a few of these guys. See here. And you get variations in how done they are. This was kind of a mashed up one that I just did. He's still going to taste delicious. You'll get variations in the way they look. There'll be a little bit of extra brown sometimes. You can either scrape that off or leave it on. These are going to be super yummy. And we're going to freeze most of these so that we can have them anytime we want to. Now let's take a peek in here. This has been cooking for just about 2 minutes. And I think you can see they've puffed up a little bit more. I don't want to leave it out too long because it's kind of doing a combination of steaming from the inside and cooking from the outside at the same time. And we're going to see, there's my guys that are already here. These are all proofed, ready to go. And I'll be back in just a minute or two and we'll see what they look like when it's time to turn them over. Okay, the timer just went off. It's been 5 minutes. Ooh, you can see some steam came out. You see the top is white and puffy. The bottom has already browned. Now one of the things I often do is when I get a section that's a little bit browner, I will actually turn this around and put the paler side on the inside. And I may need to turn this pan down again. I'm already on low, but I'll turn it a little lower. And this actually looks browner in the camera than it is. It'll be perfectly fine when it cools. Now for the last half of the cooking, I'm just going to bring this down to 4 minutes. And you'll see I cracked this. That lets some of the steam come out because I want to dry them out a little bit. It produces a nicer English muffin. Okay, let's check her out. It's been 4 minutes. And we are done. They'll be delicious. And they'll be in the freezer when we need them. Well, I hope this inspires you to try your own hand at pita bread and English muffins. The nice thing is, yeah, the stove's a little warm, but not nearly as warm as if I was running the oven. And if you're just making one or the other, it really doesn't take that long. You know, this was a major baking day for me because I'm trying to get a whole bunch of things done. And when I get, as I was telling my daughter, when I get done here today with the baking, I'm going to be doing zucchini and I'm going to be doing cucumbers because my refrigerator is overflowing again. But you've already seen most of those recipes. I'll be sharing some more soon again. It's fun to have home-baked items. Even if there's not a shortage. Right now I'd have a hard time going back to some of the baked goods that we used to buy at the grocery store. Kind of gotten spoiled. I know how we like our stuff. I know exactly how the flavors are. I know there's no preservatives in them. They live in the freezer till they pop out and they're ready to reheat. We bring out a few at a time, so there's no spoilage. It really works out well for us. And the cost is probably a quarter of what we would spend at the grocery store. Not counting the time and energy to get there. Yeah, it takes time at your home to get these things done, but a lot of times it's hurry up and wait. You know, you have to get your dough ready, but then you can do something for a couple of hours. Just have a timer set on your phone, phone lets you know when you need to do something. Not a biggie. So give it a try. Even if the pita bread doesn't puff, we had a whole bunch of it for lunch today. Henry loved it. He thought it was a great treat. And we're going to be experimenting with it. As he said, a bunch of the pieces he tried did have that line. So when he opened them up, they popped right open and he was able to use it just the way he wanted to. And I'm hoping, if I practice long enough, I'll get my pita bread to puff exactly like the pros do. Meanwhile, they're still really tasty. They still taste a lot better than that stuff in the grocery store, and wouldn't have any trouble at all making chips out of them. So that may be a future experiment. I haven't gotten past just plain eating them right now. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because we're going to be doing lots more. And I need to get out. I spent a couple of hours in the garden and stuff this morning, but it's just regular maintenance. But it's about time for another end of July update on the garden. Getting quite a bit out. Like I said, my fridge is full of veggies right now. And we've planted a few new things too, so until next time, bye.